Yeah, so I am Chantal Hopewell. I majored in English education. I graduated in May of 2010, and my current role is an organizational effectiveness program manager. So when I, went to college, I was not at all clear what I wanted to do. I think I came in as a comms major and I took comms 101 first semester and I was like, this is so boring and I don't want to do this. And I remember being like, okay, I don't want to do this, but I don't know what I want to do. And so I think I then went to human services for like a very short semester and quickly realized that also wasn't what I wanted to do. And so my mom sat me down and she said, "You have 4 years to graduate college and you need to figure it out. And what do you like?" And I remember saying like, "Well, I love to read. I'm an okay writer." And so she goes, "Okay, well, why don't you start with that?" And I remember going into like the BAL building because I had another class, and I remember like sitting somewhere waiting for class to start, and there were people who were in like, I don't know, coming out of a Shakespeare class. I remember seeing some of their books and I was like, maybe I just major in English. Like, I like to read, it's fun, maybe I become a teacher. And so that's what I did. I was like, okay, I'm gonna change my major one last time and I'm gonna stick to English and I'm gonna go the route of English education. And I went in really thinking I wanted to be a teacher, and then doing my student shadowing in Norfolk at Park Place Middle School. I was like, yeah, so like, no, don't want to be a teacher. Back to the drawing board on career. And thankfully, ODU's career like board at the time when I was there in 2000, this was '08. There was a job posting and it was for an internship with the federal government doing like security clearance investigations. And it was an alumni who had gone to ODU and she was very adamant about a student. And this was right when Obama had become president. So he was looking for new and innovative ways to get like college grads and soon to be college grads in the federal government. And so they implemented this really cool internship program. And with that, the hiring manager posted on our, internal ODU website. And I saw the posting and they had meant to take it down, but they forgot. And I reached out and the next day I had an interview. And it was really cool because the job really focused on like investigations and analyzing data and had a huge report writing component. And then I remember I started the internship and I was like, this is super cool. Like I didn't even know a job like this could exist. And as I was, making my way through like I think my first 3 months, I started the beginning of of spring semester, my junior year. And by the end of the semester, they were like, well, you've done an exceptional job. Would you be interested in a job when you graduate? And I was like, absolutely. And so the way that they were able to kind of support the getting me hired full time was that I had a literature degree. They said more than 80% of the job is writing. You're writing reports, you're writing like reviews, you're reviewing like documents and you're summarizing and you're synthesizing the data. And then that's what you're like outputting to then like decide whether or not this person's investigation goes through. And so I really truly believe like if it wasn't for my literature degree, I wouldn't be here. Out of college, I was able to start as like a general services, like the level is called a GS7. And I stayed in that role until 2016 and I made it all the way up to a GS13. And so I would say like my, federal portion of my career is very linear. And I made it to manager. And then it was really when I pivoted to Google that like that's when things were like, oh, this is very circuitous. Like doing one thing is not going to necessarily result in this particular thing. And it's kind of been like a really interesting and beautiful journey. Um and like and places like I never thought my career would take me. In my current role, I'm an organizational program manager. So the idea is that you have a 1,200 person organization that's made up of software engineers and product managers. And so I'm not sure if you're familiar with what product managers do, but a product manager will take whatever the product is that we're selling, and they work closely with like the engineers to understand the product, but then they work closely with the business side and the marketing team to think about how we want to position this product to be the product everybody wants to buy. And so the way that I describe a PM is like they're at the intersection of all of the things. And then we also have like UX, like user researchers who like are reviewing the types of products we're making, and are we thinking about accessibility and all of these impacts. And so the way that I describe myself is like I'm the dot connector. So anytime our organization has any like program that has to cascade, or new update that's come down from like our central team, it goes to my VP general manager. And then if it touches on people within the organization, it comes to me to ensure that we're like appropriately thinking about the entire organization that spans across the world. So we have folks who are in Tel Aviv, Israel, we have folks who are in Bangalore, India, folks in Australia. So I always describe it as like I'm the dot connector. So I'm going to think about all of the people who make up our organization. I'm going to connect those dots to make sure we can actually land whatever it is we have to like land by whatever time. So my work is primarily, I would say, 60% about like getting communications out. And so I drive newsletters internally for my organization. I am sending out updates to senior leadership so they're clear on how we're trending with these requirements we have to meet. I'm ensuring that like when we have our all teams meeting where my VP speaks to all of the work that we're doing across their teams across the world, I'm working on his talking points. So I'm doing like his scripts. I'm making sure that the information we're providing on our slides is like crisp and good to go. So my no 2 days are the same. So an example of one of the projects I'm working on right now is at companies, especially companies that are really large, that love data, we do an employee sentiment survey. So how are folks within the company feeling, right? And so this survey happens like once a week, which is a lot, but it gives me a lot of data to then assess like, okay, here's where we're doing really great with like our priorities and decision making, but we're not doing the best in like inclusion and in retention. And so what's come out of it is like some commitments. And so I meet with these leaders to talk about how we want to like drive these commitments. And then I work on like a whole campaign around it. And so I'm working on slides to support it. I'm working on talking points for all of the leaders to highlight the challenges and things we're trying to do. So everything ties back to some element of like writing an artifact and having to author it. And also being able to like communicate it to different audiences. I think that's also been such a skill that you learn with the literature degree. Or an English degree, is being able to know how to communicate and to whom. And that took like a lot of like energy when I first joined the company, because you might have super senior leaders who have top 3 things in mind for them. I might have people managers that have different things that they are really concerned about. And then I have the individual person on the team who's like, okay, well, what does this have to do with me and why do I need to know, right? Um, hmm. I think I would say to own it. And I think I struggled a lot with owning like the work that I did. And I think I see that at times now. And also oftentimes, like when you're in a role where you're kind of in the background, I imagine like writers for TV shows experience this type of stuff, right? Where like you're not the face of it, but you're the mind of it. But yeah, I think like being able to own the work that you do and be proud of it. As I struggled a lot with like being hypercritical and always seeking perfection, I think that sometimes that would get into the way of just being like, you produced a great product, that's your product. Get credit for your work. Like things are going to happen that are different from how you think, but I think like that's part of the journey. So I read still a ton and I overly consume things on the internet. And I find that my ability to read and like synthesize and summarize was a skill that I really enhanced when I was at ODU that I use in my personal life to be able to read, like go deep on a particular topic that at any given moment might be interesting to me. And kind of like ingest a ton of it and then be able to like speak to a high level is what I would say primarily. And then I write. I don't write like I journal a lot, but I enjoy doing that. So I do that outside of work. Um, and I plan a lot of like family stuff that requires a lot of like communicating with like annoying sisters and parents to like get them to get on board with our family vacations and other family events. So I would say that's a huge way in which I use like my writing or English degree in my personal life.